How's it going? Welcome back to the Joe and Jay Outspoken podcast.
Yeah, guys, welcome back.
Yeah, this week we've got a cool episode. It is called The Impact of God.
That is right. So recently from around the world, people have been turning to Christianity for answers. And it's something great. You know, me and you talk a lot about Christianity and our belief system, but it's good to see that you got professional athletes, you got more actors out there, you got just people from all walks of life. And we always want to talk about the most popular ones, but we have like the individuals, like the transgender. That's been a big topic in the past 4 years with the Biden administration, now with Trump administration, how that's changing and how now a lot of transgenders are, what's the term?
Detransitioning.
Yeah. And all through faith, you know, and
right.
it's incredible to see. And then now you see these collegiate teams out there praising God, wearing the same shirts. Ohio
right.
State, hey, big shout out to you guys. You know that.
Good job.
Just all these things are happening. All these revivals, all these colleges, all these. You got Cliff out there in the universities. He just went to ASU and did this great talk with other people. I mean, like you're seeing it just come out of nowhere. You know, there's two things that you and I could look at this two different ways, right? They're like, that's great, or is something happening here that's
right
that the good book says that
we
should be.
If you guys don't know, Revelations talks about some stuff like this. So, and if you don't know what Revelations is,
you
stay
need to catch up.
Stay tuned to our podcast and to the worldwide events.
Mm-hmm.
Let's just put it that way. All right. Well, guys, before we get started, please don't forget to like, share, subscribe so we can continue to bring you the most compelling content on the internet.
Most compelling arguments about these contents.
The most outspoken stuff on the internet. So, yeah. Well, here we go. All right. Welcome back to Outspoken.
Yeah.
Here we go on the impact of God.
That was a G-O-O-D. I forgot to spell God. The G-O-D, baby. The G-O-D.
Let's start this over.
Scratch it.
Capital G-O-D all the way down the line. Yeah.
Well, you know what? I was going to spell good, so God is good. So
God
you know what?
Good,
it's all in the same thing. So we're all good.
You remember those movies back in the day with George Burns? I mean, some of our watchers may be a little too...
oh, God, you devil.
Oh, God, yeah.
That was funny.
Yeah,
he is funny.
And the very first one, that was the little girl that he'd had tasked to spread the word about him.
Oh, yeah.
And it was God is good.
Yeah.
That was like the little...
Those are good little movies.
They were cute movies, you know? When Hollywood was halfway wholesome, I guess you would say.
That's so many years ago.
That is gone.
So let me ask you this, Jay. With God in the limelight now, and a lot of it with that show, The Chosen, has been very impactful for a lot of people.
Very good show, by the way.
Yeah.
If you haven't seen it, yeah,
that's been very impactful in bringing. I want to say a better understanding of the life of Jesus, where people could understand it.
Right. It's a more humanistic version. It doesn't.
Correct.
It's no matter what. Hollywood has the Hollywood eyes stuff,
correct,
right? Guys that have watched all these different, like the war movies that they have out, and they'll look at it and they're like, well, yeah, I mean, it's pretty accurate and everything, but the storytelling was really good and it told that story really well.
Correct.
Not necessarily perfectly the way it should have been told. And that's the way I would assess The Chosen, right? And it's
a version, but it's a wholesome version. It's not one that's diluted and like, maybe another belief or maybe in addition to a belief, but now is there a little bit of an added Hollywood?
They have to.
Yes, they do. Because I think it's a wholesome show. And I think it brings to light a better understanding of the life of Jesus. So with Jesus and God in general, or Christianity in general being in the limelight, how is this affecting our society, Jay? How do you think, in our society, it's filled with so much uncertainty happening right now, plenty of misleading directions from, I don't even want to just say political side, but just from people who are, I want to say almost mentally handicapped, because they are so impacted by politics that their views. So right away, let me just say this. If you're a conservative and for example, I'm a liberal, my first thing I'm going to attack is one, the fact that you're a conservative. Two is your belief in Christianity. Right. Because
your stupid Bible, your stupid God.
Correct. Yeah. Because those kind of go hand in hand. That hate that the left has kind of goes hand in hand with the hate of religion, of Christianity.
Right.
All religions good? No. clearly there's some that are misleading. There's some that are, even in the Revelations, they talk about the Antichrist and things
Right.
like that, where a lot of people are believing that that's not going to be even like a leader. It's not going to be like a president or a prime minister, but more a religious leader.
Right.
That's going to be that.
Which I would believe that more too, to be honest with you.
Yeah, so would I. So how do you see society changing besides, and as far as God, as far as Christianity, how are you seeing? What are the things that you are seeing that bring I guess delight to you or joy that Christianity is spreading? What are some of the things that you're seeing?
So I just want to recap just for a second on something that you just said, and that was about you feel that the Antichrist would be somebody that's not a political figure, but would be more of a religious figure. And I totally agree with that. Reason being is because political figures, you're never going to get more than 50% of the populace to go along with it, right? In the European countries, those presidents have 50% roughly. Maybe it sways 60-40, let's say. Even in this country, Trump had an overwhelming victory this time, right? But it wasn't more than 60-40, right? It was in that 50 percentile kind of thing. And that's the way that always goes. So you're never going to get that much, but religious figures get overwhelming respect. There's like 10, maybe 20% at the most that are like, yeah, we really don't trust, don't like that guy or whatever. Those people have a lot more hold. And this is, if you're talking about like the Pope, or you're talking about religious figures in the United States, what do they call them? The imams in the Middle Eastern countries and things like that. So I really, truly believe that is where a lot of the dissension is going to come from, right? Is from people that start to understand and wake up and see that these religious figures are going down the wrong path.
Yeah.
So as far as the things that make me chipper and smile about things that are going on now, one of the things that there was an article I read, and it was talking about that Bible sales right now are booming like through the roof. People are buying Bibles like crazy. Now with that said, religion itself, going to church, is declining, right? So people are not going to church like they used to. And the whole normal thought of religiousness is kind of declining. But why would Bible sales be going up if religion and going to church is declining? Well, I'll tell you, during COVID, a lot of things changed, right? So you had people that used to go to the store, say like, let's take Best Buy. Best Buy is a great example. Folks would go there, see the electronics they like, and they would buy the electronics they like.
Right.
Now people search online. They might go to the store to kind of check on things, but they're going to buy off of Amazon, Best Buy Online, all these kind of things. And we know this is that the younger generation, the kids, we would say now, have gotten to the point where they don't want to be social at all. So those same kids that are searching for answers, they may find it in religion, but they don't want to find it in a church. And they're going to read a Bible, and they're going to go online and watch a pastor or preacher or something online. And they're not going to actually physically show up to a Bible study with a bunch of people or a church with a lot of people. They have these social anxieties and things now that have been basically built into them because of what we did during COVID to these kids. They don't understand how to interact with with other people. And I see this in the workplace and everywhere else. So I think that's one of the really big things that's happened. Right here, this guy, Brian Fitzpatrick, he said he grew up in a Christian family and felt strong connection to a higher power, but it wasn't until this time last year that the young New York-based artist finally decided to buy her first Bible. So, you start thinking about it, you have these folks that have went a long time in their life without a religious background whatsoever.
Correct.
Right. And now it's becoming more in people's thoughts and minds and in their hearts, more importantly, that there's something missing. And we've said this in some of our other episodes, especially our Walk with Jesus episodes, that we've talked about as an individual. We all of us have a hole in our heart, and we try to fill that with relationships, with sex, with money, with possessions, with fast cars or food. I mean, very guilty of that, right?
So we just came from eating.
Sorry.
But what's funny is that you mentioned that this was 2020, you said that you saw an increase in sales in the Bible. Do you know that in 2019, so every year, more than 10 million self-help books are sold in the world. In 2019, that increased by 13%. almost 14%. That is something that's that we as human beings do, is we're always trying to find a way to better ourselves, right? Whether it's time management, pop psychology, career navigation, discovering, relationships, personal growth, how to understand a woman. That's like 25.
It's like an encyclopedia.
25 chapters of just trying to figure it out.
They're going to say the same thing about us.
I know. So think about it. If
we're so simple.
If we are simplistic, buy us a beer and a chocolate, we're good. But think about these self-help books. What is the Bible? Besides the story of Christianity, besides the story of Jesus, right? Besides all these covenants that happen, the covenants that happen in the Old Testament and the New Covenant that happen with the New Testament and with Jesus. It's a self-help book. It's a guide.
It's a spiritual development book.
In those, and I would assume that in those 13% increase in 2019, which led into COVID, I want to believe that people bought the Bible as a self-help book. Because how many people, read those, and some of these have some great titles like Unf Yourself. I don't know if you read that book. And there's a series of different of those books. They're funny. But the Bible fits in those categories. A lot of people don't have nothing left. They're like, I'm just going to read the Bible, see what it says. Other people are talking about it. And why not? It's been a huge topic for years and years, whether negative or positive. It's been a topic of discussion. And so that book is a self. If you get, there are some books that are like study Bibles, right? The study Bible. And you could go in there and in the first couple of pages, it tells you if you want help with stress, if you want help with depression,
chapters,
anxiety, blah, blah,
the books,
read these chapters and verses, right?
Yeah.
So it is in itself a self-help book. Besides the life of Jesus and the life of Christianity and the creation of us and the world, it's a self-help book. And so I feel like because of that, and I agree with you 100%, I think the pandemic has caused both positive and negative results, mostly negative. But I think in that negative, in that little gray area, a lot of people started looking into answers to things that we just could not answer. During COVID, those were desperate times.
Yeah.
We were locked down. We didn't know what we were doing. We didn't know what's going to happen, when we're going to go. People were dying, right? And not so much from the virus, because they put them on these ventilators and isolated people. And people man, that whole thing. Yeah. We could do a whole episode on that. I don't want to start touching on that subject. But the whole point is that people looked for answers in a time where there was so much uncertainty happening in the world. And I think that reading the Bible, and I don't want to say that reading the Bible got them into becoming Christians, or they're Bible thumpers or God followers or anything like that. And it's okay if you're not. You have to take a first step, right? But I think a lot of people who read the Bible started like, man, I get what they're saying, or my anxiety is not even as bad as I thought it was, or my depression is, compared to what happened to Jesus, man, I'm lucky. I'm having a good time. My life is great. And I think it started turning for a lot of people. Let's take, for example, Ohio State. Their entire team wore Jesus shirts, and look at them. They succeeded. Believe what you want. The example's out there. What I mean? Yeah. But a lot of people, they stopped fearing the embarrassment of mentioning God in speech, in the conversation, and that's going away. And I think that's huge. And I think that's making an impact. I think let's look at the core of transgender people. Why do they transition? Because they feel like they're in the wrong body. They feel like they don't have answers to the feelings that they have, the emotions, or whatever. You and I will look at it as a mental health issue. The liberals look at it as like a freedom thing. Like, oh my God, they were just born in the wrong body. Which you can't be born in the wrong body. That's ridiculous. Again, modern science, psychology, and psychiatry always want to put a label on it, want to give you medicine for it. But the reality of things is that there's a lot of confusion going on in the world. Mm-hmm. And as a child, when you start introducing these weird things, some of these shows that you see nowadays that just they break these barriers that were there years ago, before we had wholesome shows and things that, taught you, the Count Dracula that taught you how to count, and, and Bert and Ernie.
One chocolate cookie.
And just things like that, where now in society, you have little kids, they have these shows, or having sex, or having these weird things that kids have to face nowadays. So I'm not shocked that there's confusion in them.
Absolutely.
When I was a kid, and again, it wasn't confusion. It was just, as a child, you saw a program, you're like, I want to do that. You tie a towel around your neck, you jump off the roof thinking you could fly, and clearly you can't. But
greatest American hero.
You're right. But so again, they have these questions, but then they start reading the Bible and they start thinking like, oh my God, I wasn't born in the wrong body.
That's right.
I don't have to be accepted by society because I am accepted by God. You know what I mean? And that's all that matters at the end of the day. So it gives people this independence, this freedom of choice, a true freedom of choice, I should say. And I think it starts making them kind of settle down, kind of give them a solid foundation. Say, hey, bro, there's nothing wrong with you. Weird thoughts. My apostles were all doing something wrong. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They weren't the perfect people.
No,
you know?
not at all.
So, and I think as people read the Bible, people start looking at these stories. And again, there's all kinds of versions. There's the English, ESL or ESV or something like that. There's different versions, you know.
New American Standard. You got the new King James version, the regular King James version.
So, but again, I think as people read the Bible, they're starting to understand, I think, some of these emotions, some of these feelings. And I think it's becoming such a talking point that, like, Charlie Kirk talks about it all the time. So he's on campuses. You got, I forget Cliff, I forget his last name, but he's an older gentleman who goes to universities and talks about God.
You're talking about,
and he was just at ASU. And if you would see the crowd, and that's and ASU is a very liberal campus. And
most campuses are.
But if you see
overall,
but ASU, oh my God, would they've become very conservative lately?
Absolutely.
And again, it's almost like religion. They're seeing all the bad things that liberals have done or continue to do and things like that, and they start looking at different things. They open their minds, right? And the same thing's happening with the Bible. People are reading the Bible and opening their minds to the possibility that, hey, there are answers out here. It's not a black and white like it's been told for all these years. And I think that's a great thing, because now people are starting to say and speak freely about their belief in Christianity. And I think it's a great thing. And I think, like I said, we've seen athletes changing. We've seen college kids. We've seen the Gen Zers. We've seen it's impacting everyone's life. Right. And then of course you see the increase. You can't scroll through Instagram stuff without seeing a little advertisement about a revival coming to your location. Right. There's supposed to be this
Bible conferences and stuff like that.
Well, currently there's supposed to be, it's through Your Bible. I think Your Bible is a group, but I think they also do they have an app. They're supposed to be having a prayer day, March something. And it's like everyone in the world, they've actually gotten translators. They've done all kinds of things. It's supposed to be this huge thing, but it's becoming an increased interest for the younger generation, which is, to me, great. Right. So I don't know. I just think there's a lot of things coming in, and the revivals, all these things, I think all these give you a base, a foundation, something to start with in life to have answers. You can't always get these self-help books by Dr. Spock for your children. Sometimes you just got to open up that Bible and read it, and I think that's a great thing. I don't know. I think that I see a big shift, and I don't know if you're seeing it too, but
most people, the reason they don't want to talk about religion or the Bible or anything else like that is we've talked about this before. They feel that they're too sinful, to be Christian or what have you, which, just to let you know, every Christian is sinful. So just to throw that out on the street, I promise you, whatever you've done, I know Christian people that were in prison, right?
Yeah.
That were drug addicts, all kinds of other stuff, and they've come to the Lord afterwards, right? The other thing is, I think, worse, because that I understand. People are shy, fearful that other people are going to judge them, right? I don't want to walk into church because those people are all goody two-shoes, and they're going to disagree with whatever my lifestyle. I have too many tattoos. They know that I was on drugs or whatever. Trust me, people in the church don't care about that kind of stuff with you, and if they do, and you'll agree with me on that's the wrong church for you to go to in the first place.
Hypocrites.
Yeah, those are hypocrites anyways. So the next thing is that, well, I don't want to change my lifestyle. Like, I like what I do. I like the sin I'm in. If I go to church or crack this Bible open, I'm going to have to change who I am and change my ways. The question I would pose to somebody that has that mentality is, why do you need all of these sinful things to feel good about yourself? Why is it? Well, it's just fun and everything. Well, there's one point in your life you didn't do that stuff and you were just fine. And for whatever reason, you got to a point that you need this, and now you need more and more and more, just like drugs, right? You have to hit the next high level. And I've talked to different folks about the whole thing of, well, like, I'm gay. How can you as a religious person say that? And Joe and I have talked about this before. We have friends that that are of the gay persuasion, and we love these people dearly. They're great folks and everything.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't mean we have to agree with their lifestyle. Here's my thing with that. That side of the fence with gay folks, or especially the trans movement that's going on right now, they're going to say, well, I was born that way, right? Joe just mentioned that. I was born that way. How dare you tell me I can't be the way I'm born? So let me ask you guys. So take that same concept and say just a normal guy, say the both of us, we get married to a couple women, and we say, you know what, we were born to just sleep around with all kinds of frolic around, right?
Yep.
We were born that way. I mean, how dare you tell us that we can't sleep with other women besides our wives? Now, all of a sudden, that would be an issue, right? And it should be. The thing is that as a man, right, that gets married to a woman, what are you expected to do? Control yourself, right? As a child, I remember a kid that was a little pyro that wanted to light everything he saw on fire. So should you just allow that child to do that? Just go around lighting stuff on fire? You know, talk to the people in California. They'd probably tell you, no, that's not a good idea. So one point or another, we have to learn self-control and understand that not everything is something that we should act upon. True. Right? Because there are people that are born that have this weird thing in their mind, right? That they want to be horrible with children, whether that's abusive or whether that's sexually abusive. There's men that say they feel that they should be able to beat their wives or what have you. Are these things because they feel that way that we should allow them to do it? Well, I know what will be one of the rebuttals is, oh, well, they're not hurting anybody, you know, if they're just being trans or just being gay. And, you know, here's the big thing is, how much are you hurting yourself with all these things? There are so many folks that have been through the transition through the trans deal. Now they're, like Joe said earlier, detransitioning, and it's almost impossible for some of them because of the extremities they've went through. The doctors have done things to them. And so this is one of the reasons that I really, truly believe that God, the Bible, and people trying to find their way back, whether it's into church, whether it's into religion or Christianity, has become such a big topic now and a big deal for folks. It's because folks are lost, brother. I mean, they are really lost and they are searching for something. And whether that's this sexual perversion thing, whether it's, drugs, whether it's money is a huge one for a lot of people. I mean, we're all guilty of that, right? We put money before God. We put all of our selfless possessions and our needs before, somebody that basically gave us everything. And and I think it's a real big struggle for a lot of folks. I know when we go to church, we sit there and whenever we do communion or they start talking about, what Jesus did and died on the cross and everything and how physically put it to a human perspective, how all that happened. Rather, that's really, it hits hard, man, because you think about you sitting out there right now, if you have children or just somebody that you love and say that person is going to be completely horrifically sacrificed for a bunch of people that don't deserve it. They're sinners and totally horrible people out there. But you're going to allow this person that you love so much to be completely tortured and everything else. None of us would be okay with that. None of us, And so it's very humbling when you start thinking about it and you really start reading into the Bible of everything that God has done. And the last point I'd make because I know there's going to be somebody out there that says, well, God's fake anyways. It's a fairy tale. It's made up, this and that. So the beginning of the universe started with a big bang. And what was that big bang? And even Neil deGrasse Tyson, he's tried to explain this. He's like one of the smartest guys out there in the scientific community. And he can't explain how that started from nothing, right? Because there was this vast emptiness.
Nothing from nothing is nothing.
Nothing from nothing is nothing.
So Eddie Murphy saying that song.
So this vast emptiness of space, and all of a sudden there's this light, and everything comes into existence from that. Now I want you to think about that for a second. In Genesis, it talks about in the beginning. What does it say? There was nothing. There was void. And in the first day, what did he make? He made light, right? In the first day.
God is light.
All of a sudden, from nothing, you have something. I have an easier time believing in a fairy tale of a all-powerful being able to create something than I do of nothing creating something.
Well, I personally would rather believe that I came from God than I came from nothing. But
there's really no way that if you really look at it, I mean, the entire missing link thing, the fact that monkeys still exist if we came from monkeys, the diversity of plants and everything else. One of the biggest ones for me, and we've talked about this on the side before, is water. So what's the number one thing they're searching for on every planet? Water.
Life.
Yeah, because water begets life, right? And there is no water, there's no trees, there's no flora or fauna on any planet, none of them. And they claim that, well, the reason we have water here is because of all the comets hit this planet and all the water, created all the oceans. So you're telling me that every single comet magically came to this planet and not any of the other ones? I mean, there's so many things that are just so out of proportion, for our planet to be able to sustain life the way it does and everything. It's astronomically impossible without it being purposeful.
Yeah. So just a couple,
cheers.
Salud. Just a couple of fun facts. So the largest religion in the world is Christianity. As of last year, there was approximately 2.63 billion Christians in the world. That's a 1.08% increase from the previous year, which makes it about 31.8% of the world populace believes in Christianity, right? Of course, in those is Catholic Church, the Protestants, and the Orthodox Church are all part of that.
Right. They're all people that believe in the Jesus God.
Jesus of Nazareth.
Yeah.
So
right.
The Christian belief is expected to surpass 3 billion by 2050, right? So that, to us as Christians, that's great news, right? Because that means people are converting, they're changing. And that's something that we believe in. There is still, the Muslims are 25.8%, Hindus 15.1%, Jews are like 0.2%. There's other religions that are like 0.8%, things like that. But unaffiliated, there's 14.4%. There's a 14.5% that we could still impact, all right? We could still work on. And trust me, those numbers that they're talking about 3 billion to surpass by 2050, what do you think are coming from? The unaffiliated, some Muslims. There's a lot of Muslims that have been converting lately to Christianity. And the thing is this, ladies and gentlemen, and the impact that's happening, I think, is a great one. But we also have to consider this, Jay. As more and more people are believing in Christianity, more and more people are hating on Christianity as well. And that's kind of sad because that you have a power struggle right now. You have an opposing element against one that you're trying. So if you're a new believer and you're trying to know more about it, then you have this opposing force against you. Unfortunately, if you're not strong enough in your belief yet, you're going to lose that drive, right? And you're going to be like, maybe you're right.
Well, especially, you think about a young kid, they're kind of raised, their grandparents and their parents, they're lukewarm Christians, let's say. They kind of take them to
squirrel Christians is what I call them.
Christians, yeah. They take them to church once in a while and they kind of read their Bible. They got one it's dusty and it's sitting on their dresser or whatever, or under the bed. And they go to a school that is primarily not people of that, right? They're either atheist or agnostic or of other religions, and they just make fun of you and tell you that you believe in a fairy tale. Again, pretty daunting to think about the amount of people that are against Christianity. And Christians in general have been the most persecuted people throughout history. Now, some people would say, well, wouldn't you say the Jews are? Well, like Joe said, I mean, it's 0.2% of the religion
for Jewish religion.
Yeah, is
our Jews
out there. Now, and here's the thing that's tough.
God's chosen people.
Yeah, here's the tough thing about Judaism is anybody that's born in Israel is called a Jew. Now, that has nothing to do with their religion. It's just their entire being is based around a religion. Most of the young kids, and I don't want to say most, but a lot of the younger generations that are coming up in Israel and that part of the world, and even in the United States and around the world where Jews have settled more, they are not actually religious. They don't practice. Even though they're considered Jewish, they don't practice the Jewish faith. So that's a big thing. In the United States, you're born into a primarily Christian country, right? But just because you're born here doesn't make you Christian. We're not going to call you Christian just because you're born into the United States. It's something
You're
that
American.
Right. You're American. Right. The whole American thing is based around a Judeo-Christian value system. Right. That's what America is based around. But it doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to grow up and follow the Christian faith.
And those numbers that I gave too, those are universal numbers across the world.
The world, yeah.
So
right,
it's
right.
not America.
Right.
The crazy thing about America is that we're declining in Christianity here. Christian groups or church attendance is in a decline in America. And again, we had that whole 2019, 2020 and all that.
Yeah,
that
with COVID era,
it increased, right? But now we have kind of things back to normal. Things are starting to go down, and then on top of that, you have people that intertwine religion with politics. And so, because you're a conservative, you're a Bible thumper, a Jesus freak. And then the liberals want to distance themselves from that because that would assume that they're conservative because they're religious. And who's a large group of the left is a transgender and all those other groups, right? So because of that, you see a lot of people there. You see a decline in that's happening.
Yeah.
You know what's so crazy though? And a lot of these places where you see Muslims, you see Hinduism happening. I'm talking about Singapore, China, Hong Kong, Taiwan, Indonesia. What's that other one? Malaysia. All them, they practice Hinduism. They practice just Muslims. Those are the largest growing Christians in the world right now.
Yeah.
And that's crazy. Because you start thinking about it, you're like, so when you talk in America, you talk about different religious groups, but when you're talking about those countries like China, Singapore, Hong Kong, Taiwan,
they're primarily
one religious group. And to see and hear that Christianity is spreading in those countries, you're like, wow, that's crazy. And those countries are like Indonesia. They're isolated. They're little islands out there and stuff like that, So, you start hearing about the spread of Christianity. You're like thinking, what is going on over there? How are we in a decline in Christianity? And then you got these Asian countries that are increasing in Christianity.
Yeah.
We're going away from their born religion that they're born into, going away from that.
Yeah.
So there has to be a little bit of truth behind the Bible, right? And so to me, that's great news. Like, look, man, I'm pro-American, right? I want everything. I want us to be number one in everything. If it's Christianity, if it's gun ownership, if it's freedom of speech, whatever it is, I want us to be. I want us to be on top of it. If it's just like the most incarcerated, we're number one. Whatever it is, I want to win.
I think we're winning at that too.
Yeah, we're good at that one. The most obese, America. But the thing is,
man, we're batting 1,000.
But I want to be number one in Christianity. But you know what? I love to see things like that happening, because, that's just a testament to me. That's a testament to the world to say, look, man, these people who are born into like their religion, that's all they know, are turning to Christianity. There has to be some truth behind it. And we all know that the Bible itself is a historical document. It's the most sold book in the world. But there is also non-religious writings, discoveries that have been made in Rome and that attribute to that belief, that are non-religious. They're not, even people that back then that didn't believe in Jesus' miracles wrote about him. And of course, they said he was what'd they call him? A witch or something like, but which tells me that they're calling him that because he performed miracles, right? So again, they didn't believe in him, but they were calling him names. That means he existed.
Yeah.
Right. So there's just so much out there, and to me, that's great news.
I don't think at this point that there's a dispute that the man Jesus lived. I don't think
have you seen some of these lefties to your fake God and all? Have you heard them?
Oh yeah.
There's a little disbelief, I want to say.
Right. Well, as far as him being the son of God and everything, I think that's where a lot of but anybody at this point that is like, well, the man Jesus never existed, then you might as well just give up on science altogether and history altogether.
And now we're talking about Jesus, not Jesus, guys, not the Jesuses down in Phoenix. All right, guys.
Well, listen, everybody, we appreciate you every time showing up to our show and tolerating us. We are just full of a bunch of nonsense, hot air, and everything else in between. But we really appreciate you. And again, we hate to ask for it, but, please don't forget to like, share, subscribe.
I don't hate for to ask.
No.
I'm going to beg you, do it. Or you're gonna have
What did I
you're gonna
say
have
earlier?
dreams. You're gonna have dreams about me.
So we can keep bringing you compelling content. Like we're Fox or CNN or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, we really appreciate you showing
We're
up.
more like the National Enquirer.
Right. Yeah. Inquiring minds want to know.
God. Yeah.
Well, everybody.
Hey man, thanks for tuning in, and I appreciate it, and I hope you guys understand kind of where we're coming from when it comes to just the impact of God in today's society. And it could be looked at in both ways. The negative, it could be looked at a positive, but the decision ultimately is yours and yours alone to make. And we hope that you make the right one, because again, it's not my soul you're worried that you should be worried about. It's your own, right? I got my own soul to worry about. And yeah, me and you just had a little talk. I got a lot of work to do, but I'm still working on it.
Working on it every day. Well, we care about you. We love you. And like we always say, take care of one another.
Do better, be better.
And as always, God bless America.
We'll see you next week, guys.
See you next Tuesday.